It's 2002. The PlayStation 2 is dominating living rooms worldwide. Gamers are chasing high-flying adventures, and beloved franchises like Spyro have millions of fans eagerly waiting for the next big thing. Insomniac Games had just wrapped up their acclaimed PS1 trilogy, and the world wondered, what would Spyro do on the next generation of consoles? But, behind the scenes, the gaming landscape was shifting. Insomniac had moved on to create a brand new series, Ratchet & Clank, leaving Spyro in the hands of new developers under tight deadlines. What followed would become a lesson in what not to do with the beloved franchise. The Spyro franchise began on the original PlayStation, with 3 critically acclaimed games developed by Insomniac Games: Spyro the Dragon, Ripto's Rage, and Year of the Dragon. These games weren't just good, they were classics. Tight controls, colourful 3D worlds, inventive platforming, and a charming purple dragon who quickly became a PlayStation icon. But after Year of the Dragon, Insomniac didn't return to Spyro. They moved on to their next big idea, Ratchet & Clank. Meanwhile, the rights to Spyro stayed with Universal Interactive. Development of the next game was handed off to Check 6 Studios and Equinox Digital Entertainment. For both teams, this would be their first major console release. Check 6 had another game, Aliens: Colonial Marines, in development at the time, but it was eventually cancelled, leaving Spyro as their sole completed project. These 2 inexperienced teams were now suddenly responsible for carrying on Spyro's legacy. The game was rushed to meet a holiday deadline in 2002. Developers have since admitted they had barely a year to build the entire thing. Planned features and levels were cut, bugs went unfixed, and performance issues plagued development. One former producer even said the project was practically doomed from the start. So what is Enter the Dragonfly? At its core, it's a 3D platformer just like the PS1 trilogy. However, the main objective has a new spin on the collectible formula, which changed with each of the PS1 games. While the original Spyro the Dragon focused on freeing dragons from their stone enclosures, its sequel had you collecting orbs and gems for recovering dragon eggs. In this new game, you guide Spyro through themed levels, breathing fire, collecting gems, and rescuing the lost dragonflies. To help you with this, you gain new breath abilities: ice, bubble, and electric. The bubble breath in particular is meant to help you catch the dragonflies, but their execution is frustrating. The hitboxes are unreliable, sometimes making it far too easy to catch a dragonfly, and other times making the simple task a frustrating chore. On the surface, Enter the Dragonfly certainly looks like a step up. The graphics are a clear improvement over the PS1 games, and the level themes, a farm, a Lao beach, ice realms, cloud worlds, sound promising and can even be entertaining. The game's mini areas too can be quite fun and are a welcome distraction. But here's the problem. The game is shockingly thin on content. Instead of tightly designed playgrounds, you get large, lifeless spaces. And the only boss in the game, Ripto, was just copied from the previous games. Progression revolves around catching dragonflies. They're scattered around the levels, sometimes earned through mini challenges, sometimes just floating there waiting for you. If you collect enough dragonflies, you can unlock new worlds where you'll find different breath abilities.
Spyro, the magic of this sacred rune will grant you the power of electric breath.
Youch! Youch! Youch!
And this is where Enter the Dragonfly really shows its cracks. Despite being on the more powerful PlayStation 2, the game feels less polished, less creative, and less fun than the PS1 trilogy. The controls are clunky, the frame rate dips constantly, the load times drag on, and glitches break the flow. Somehow, the older PS1 games feel more advanced in design than their so-called next-gen sequel. Enter the Dragonfly is so glitchy that if you headbutt the end portal at the beginning of the game in a certain way, you can glitch yourself straight to the end boss fight and finish the game in under 5 minutes. Critics tore it apart. GameSpot gave it a scathing review, stating, "While it may have some great predecessors, this latest Spyro is an almost unplayable train wreck of a game that has no direction, no technical merit, and little appeal except as a game design house of horrors and a showcase for some good music by Stuart Copeland." Fans were devastated. Spyro's PS2 debut was a disaster. After Enter the Dragonfly, Spyro never really recovered. A Hero's Tale on PS2 tried to improve things, but it still fell short. On the Game Boy Advance, Spyro actually did better. Games like Season of Ice and Season of Flame were solid 2D platformers, but nothing matched the charm of the original trilogy. Eventually, Spyro was rebooted with the Legend of Spyro series and later transformed into Skylanders. While those had their fans, for many, Spyro's golden age had ended with the PlayStation 1. Spyro Enter the Dragonfly is remembered as one of gaming's great disappointments, not because Spyro was a bad idea, but because of what happens when a beloved franchise is rushed out of the door without the care it deserves. For fans, it was the end of an era. For developers, it was a cautionary tale. And for Spyro, it was the moment he fell from the sky. But here's the thing. From a personal perspective, I can't quite agree with all the criticism. As a young boy, this was my first experience with Spyro. I had no prior nostalgia or other games to compare it to. I wasn't an expert on frame rates or level design. I was just a kid playing a colourful game with a cute dragon. I have many happy memories of exploring these worlds, even with all their quirks. To me, the game was a fun and exciting adventure. In that sense, some of the criticism seems a little extreme, as the game was likely not created for the hardcore gamer, and more so for the younger, more casual audience, which I was. In hindsight, as an adult, I can see the flaws. I understand the complaints about the performance issues and the long loading times, and I now know that the level design is far less intricate than the PS1 titles. But even so, I can't look back at this game with anger. The memories of playing it as a kid remain, proving that sometimes a game's value isn't just in its technical perfection, but in the joy it brings to the right person at the right time.